We're back with Dr. Oz, and I was asking you, social distancing, staying 6 feet apart, why is this effective?
It's the single most important thing because when we speak or cough or sneeze, a little bits of droplet come out of our mouth and it aerosolizes like a plume. Imagine this imaginary cloud between me and you. We're about 6 feet away. It's not a coincidence that we have this setup. And so that cloud is hanging, and those particles get into your nose or your mouth, and they break through small breaks in your membrane, which is why staying hydrated is important. When you have a nose that dries out, like if you're on an airplane, viruses can get in there more regularly. The other thing we have to do is hand wash. But we have to hand wash the right way. This is not a hand wash. You have to wash like a surgeon.
Yes.
Which means and you don't need antibacterial soap. Please just get regular old soap. The soap breaks into the virus particles and kills them. But you have to actually wash your fingertips. So I call this a Turkish twist because you've got to go back and forth. We learned this in medical school.
I've watched my husband do it for 20 years.
Exactly. And then the thumbs aren't involved. You got to clean the thumbs separately. And then, I call this,
the nail.
Greasing the palm, right? Keep the fingertips clean, get the nails short, and that actually kills off the viruses more effectively than any of the sanitizers. I actually have a one sheet that the View is sending it out on your social media. It's all on droz.com.
Oh, good.
But the one sheet goes through all these very specific things. There it is. It's not difficult. It's the most shared piece of material I've ever put online. And at the bottom, I offer some advice on things you can do to stay healthy, which besides sleep, which is the most important, to keep your immune system strong. Physical activity daily makes a big difference because if you break a sweat, your body knows you're in the battle, so it protects you. And if you eat the right foods, you lift up your immune system. In particular, things like vitamin D are important. You can get it from the sun or take it as a supplement, but we find that in a regular old common cold, it seems to keep people a little bit resistant.
Okay, the other thing I wanted to ask is I have 3 kids under 4 years old, and so far we haven't been as concerned with young people. They seem to be pretty resilient. What's the updated information on how it's affecting kids?
There's not a single experience around the world of a child under 10 dying from this virus.
Okay.
That's great news.
Wow.
For the first time this weekend, there was a child born of a mother who had coronavirus, and the child tested positive later on. But historically, we didn't even see that. So pregnant women also seem to be doing okay in terms of passing it down to their fetus. So I feel pretty good about children. The problem is that they get the virus and you don't know it. And this is
They carry it.
They carry it. And there are a fair number of people who don't have significant symptoms. I interviewed a woman yesterday who had no symptoms.
Idris Elba, my boyfriend in my head, doesn't have any symptoms.
I mean, I'm sitting right here, and he's also my boyfriend, so.
So you don't know, and a lot of people are pre-symptomatic. It's a 5-day incubation period, we believe, so you might be sick, spewing virus on the 3rd day, but not so symptoms. And the worst part of this is there are people who, after they recover, continue to spew virus for weeks afterwards, and they don't know it. So we're not sure how long the quarantine, but 2 weeks is a good starting point.
Okay. And we were talking at the break. Volunteers in Seattle got the first doses of a trial vaccine for COVID-19. What do you know about that?
A lot about it. There are a couple companies competing right now, thankfully. Many were going to get successful solutions. Remember, we have to make it safe and effective. You don't want to put a vaccine into hundreds of millions of people unless you know both of those are true.
Right.
But it's going to take at least a year, probably 18 months to have it out. But let me just break some news for you. I am stunned at the advances we're making looking at the repurposing of already existing drugs. Because this is an RNA virus. It's not that dissimilar from Ebola or from AIDS, HIV. So the drugs that work for those conditions may work here. There's an old malaria drug that seems to be effective, maybe even prophylaxing for healthcare workers, for example. So it's not just that we have to wait for a vaccine. Every day we don't get sick, the medical community gets better at saving the lives of people by delaying the virus's growth or treating the complications of it. People don't die of pneumonia only. They die because their blood vessels clot off. They get this huge inflammatory avalanche. And we can block that because that happens in other conditions as well. So it's just one simple word of caution. If we can just stall this process until, let's say, June, with the warm weather, the swelling of the droplets, they won't travel the 6 feet that they would travel now. They get, they're like blimps, they fall to the ground, they don't live as long. We'll get a much better treating the problems, and we won't have the catastrophe we fear. That's why we have the power in our fingers if we just act by not using them in our face.
Wow.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well,